Blog Talk Radio.
And good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining us here on King Jordan Radio. The date is Wednesday, December 4th, 2013. Tonight, we have a very special guest. He has been featured in Spike Lee's Bad 25 documentary. He's an author of Michael Jackson books and Barack Obama. It is my pleasure to introduce Mr. Joseph Vogel. Good evening, Joseph, and thank you for joining us here on King Jordan Radio.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, Joseph, it's been a year now that you were on the Spike Lee documentary. Let's start with that. Tell me how that got all set up with you going to be in the documentary.
Well, a while before the documentary, Spike Lee had me down. He teaches a film class at the Tisch School of the Arts at NYU. And he invited me down to talk about Michael Jackson's short films to his graduate film class. So that was the first time I met him in person. Before that, he'd reached out to me about my book. I guess he found my book at a Barnes & Noble and really enjoyed it. And so he reached out to me, and it was very kind and said some nice things about the book. And so then I went down to his class and had a great experience. Ate pizza with Spike in his class and talked about the video that he did with Michael. They Don't Care About Us. And it was a few months after that when he started emailing me and texting me about this documentary they were going to do to celebrate the 25th anniversary of Bad, and that he wanted me to help out with some of the research for it. And he also wanted to interview me for it. And the whole thing was just a great experience. I mean, it was fun to be involved with, and it was fun to watch some of the other people that were interviewed as well, and just learn more about the album. It's a great album.
And of course, that was it. But that wasn't your resume. With all due respect to MJ, you wrote a lot of books. Let's start with how you became involved with writing books. MJ, did you start out being a fan, like most of us?
I grew up on Michael. I think I probably first heard his music when I was 8. By the time I was 9 or 10, I was hooked. I was 10 when the Dangerous album came out. I definitely remember the Bad album, but the Dangerous album was the one that, where I was old enough to really kind of get excited about the release and everything. So I just grew up on his music. It's kind of strange, actually, that I ended up writing about Michael, because I never really thought that I would. But it was one of those situations where Toni Morrison has this famous quote. She says that if there's a book that you want to read that doesn't exist, then you have to write it. So it was kind of a situation like that where, I'd go to a bookstore and look around trying to find a book that focused on Michael's music and his artistry, and there just wasn't anything. And so I got this idea in 2005, around the time of the trial, that, the focus needed to shift back to the music. And so I started the book back then, and I worked on it for 4 or 5 years, and eventually got it published.
And out of all those books that you wrote, which one came first?
I definitely started Man in the Music first. The Earth Song,
featuring...
the Earth Song book was kind of an outgrowth of Man in the Music. Like, I was so fascinated by that particular song that I just started doing a little bit more research and just wanted some space to kind of really go in depth on that particular song. So I think my memory's not great. So I think that Earth Song actually came out a little bit before Man of the Music, but I definitely started Man of the Music first.
Earth Song, that was originally done in 1995, right? According to your website.
I'm sorry, what was that?
The Earth Song book, that was done in 1995, or no?
Oh, no. Well, Michael's song came out in 1995.
No, your book, James.
Yeah, the book came out in 2010.
2010.
So, yeah.
Okay, and so you had that book. What was, give us an idea about Earth Song. Was it about the book or the planet? What was the whole book about?
Well, it was basically just tracing the song, and how, Michael had this kind of habit of having the seed of a song and then just kind of tinkering with it over a long period of time. He really wanted to sculpt it and mold it and perfect it. And with Earth Song, I found out, even though it came out on the History album, the idea, the kind of original melody and some of the early concepts came about during the Bad Tour, so quite a bit before. And then he worked on it during the early Dangerous sessions with Bill Bottrell, one of the primary producers for the Dangerous album. And so what I did with the book really is I just tried to interview a lot of people that worked on that song with Michael, especially Bill Bottrell, and just get a sense for. I kind of used it kind of as a case study to say this is kind of how Michael operated behind the scenes in the studio. When we kind of saw the finished product, but here's how he did it. Here's how he went about it, and it was fascinating for me. It was like putting together a puzzle, and it was a fun book to write.
Absolutely, and what's good about your books is it doesn't really go into the salacious trials and negative and all this other stuff. I've been told, at least, I haven't read the book, but I've been told that you just concentrate on his pure music. Is that accurate?
Yeah, to me, all of that stuff wasn't, first of all, it had been covered so much, all of the scandals and controversies and the kind of sensationalistic prying into his personal life. And I always felt like Michael, kind of consistently said in his interviews that he wished that people, here he was like one of the great artists of our time, and people would so rarely ask him about his craft and be interested in his in his artistry. And so, for my books, that's what I wanted to explore. Not that there aren't aspects of his personal life that aren't fascinating, or his humanitarian efforts, or books that make the case for his innocence, in terms of these allegations and the trials. That just isn't what I wanted to focus on, because so much had been done in that area, and I really, for me, growing up on Michael's music, that's where the magic was. That's what that's what I wanted to read, so that's what I wrote.
No question. I want to take a video, and he called them short films, right?
Right.
I happen to have on Speed Demon, and I'm looking at it now, and we are 2013, and that was done in 87, and it looks like it could be a video that would be done for this era. To me, Michael was always ahead of his time. Agree?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he was always ahead of the curve, and especially, I mean, just absolutely revolutionary when it came to short films, not only aesthetically, but in terms of breaking down institutional barriers. Of course, MTV had, these kind of obsolete racist formatting principles, which basically said that they only wanted rock artists on their network, and rock was kind of a euphemism for white. It's something that Michael didn't accept, and he made videos that were so good, that were so ahead of the curve, that, there was no way to deny him and his videos, and they completely revolutionized MTV, for one. I mean, they basically turned that network from, this kind of fledgling cable TV network that had a pretty limited audience to what it became. But really, Michael was and his short films were much bigger and improved, had better staying power than MTV. When you look at him now, it's like you say, you look at videos like Smooth Criminal and Thriller and Black or White, Stranger in Moscow,
Scream.
Bad, Scream. These videos all hold up really well, and I think, in the years to come, people are really going to recognize not only Michael's contributions to music or even television or MTV, but his contributions to film, to the art of film. I think that, he wasn't just a performer in his films. He was the auteur in many ways of his films. In other words, he was he essentially was acting in many ways as a director in terms of choreography and costumes and lighting and the storyboarding and all of that kind of stuff. So, yeah, it's a pretty remarkable kind of facet of his career.
Absolutely. And you were talking about the Dangerous album earlier, and that's also, he had a lot of great hits on that album, such as Jam, where he worked with Michael Jordan. I thought that was one of the greats. They had Dangerous, obviously. They had a lot of great songs on that album. Do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Dangerous was, it was a real turning point for Michael. It was actually a friend of mine, Susan Fast, she's a professor, she just finished a manuscript for a book that totally focuses on the Dangerous album, which is great. I read through the manuscript, but it's such a it's such a brave album in many ways. It was his first album without Quincy Jones, and it was Michael kind of surrounding himself with new people, including Teddy Riley. Teddy Riley's going to be on your show, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, so Teddy Riley and, of course, Bill Bottrell and Bruce Swedien. So, he was working with, of course, Bruce Swedien had been on the other albums, but he was trying new things, and he was experimenting with different genres, different styles, and I think he felt kind of liberated on that album. It really showed because he's taken all kinds of risks on that album.
Yeah, I mean, if you go into the years of 88, 89, 90, 91, and 92, if you take those years, I would say Michael Jackson would be 20 times over than Justin Bieber in those particular years. And I'm being serious. Would you agree?
Yeah. I don't think.
I mean,
Bieber does what Justin Bieber does, right? Which, not to take nothing away from him, but, Michael is, when we look back on the 20th century, Michael will be, the Mozart, he will be the one of the defining artists of this past century. So that's the class that Michael's in. There's not too many artists. Because again, it's not just the music with Michael. It's the dancing, It's the short films. It's the iconography. It's everything that made Michael so unique. And so, when you try to find parallels in contemporary music, it's going to be very hard to find anyone that can even come close to kind of the level of, first of all, level of artistry, but also the cultural impact that Michael had. I mean, think about how many, not only like pop artists, but people in hip hop, people in R&B, people in all genres that are influenced by Michael Jackson.
Who's that? Which artist? Has been influenced by Michael Jackson?
I was just saying, artists in all of these different genres. I mean, take your pick. I mean, like Jay-Z, Kanye West,
Chris Brown,
Beyonce, Lady Gaga, Justin Bieber, Chris Brown, Neo. I mean, just go on and on. Like, every artist in contemporary music would probably acknowledge in some way being influenced by Michael.
No question about it. Okay, I have a question that came in from Holland. A girl, Mary Arts, asks, first compliments for his box, especially Man in the Music. So detailed. I learned such a lot about MJ. The song All in Your Name sang together with kind Barry Gibb. Was the song written by MJ and Barry together?
What song did she say?
All in Your Name.
Oh, I'm pretty sure that Barry Gibb wrote that song, and Michael was asked to sing it with him. I'd have to double check on that. But I'm pretty sure that Barry Gibb had written the song and asked Michael to be a part of it.
She also says, what is Joe's feelings when he listens to MJ songs where they make MJ's special, unique voice trembling so much you wonder if it even is MJ? I do not like that. What's Joe's opinion?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Yeah, I think she's saying that. I'm trying to guess what she's saying. I guess if they add some of the stuff, maybe in the in that album, Michael.
So like when people that are like embellishing Michael's tracks or like distorting his voice.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that. I mean, I think we should always. I mean, every now and then, like there was just a song leaked. People may be aware of called "A Place with No Name." It's always nice to hear Michael's original work. The way he left it. So, I personally don't care when people do remixes as long as we have the originals in some form to at least compare. But I tend to, prefer whatever it is that Michael last touched. So, if he had a chance to bring a song to completion, then that's great. Otherwise, I kind of just like to hear the rough demo and just kind of see where he left it.
There is a lot to do about the Casio tracks. I do not know what to do or what to believe, Mary writes. Or what is Joe's opinion on that?
Yeah, my opinion, this is kind of a controversy that never goes away. And my position has always been about transparency, which is to say, let's learn more about those tracks. The red flag for me was just that whereas almost every other song that Michael worked on, I was able to kind of trace a history. You know, I could talk to people about them. I never could talk to anybody about those tracks. I reached out, but I never talked to anybody who was in the studio and watched Michael record those songs. And so there's no question that there's something going on with the vocal where it does not sound like Michael. But,
Absolutely.
you know, who, like, you know, as a journalist, as a responsible journalist, you can't just say whatever you want to say, whatever your opinion is. You have to have sources. So, you know, I know there are people who are looking into it, and I've encouraged that, you know, that people try to learn more about them, and I think transparency is always good. And, you know, I mean, at the end of the day, you know, people listen for themselves, and they make a determination, you know. So every listener has the right to listen to those songs and make their own judgment about what they think.
You know, it's funny. I played breaking news for a couple people that know Michael Jackson, heard his old stuff, and I just pressed and played breaking news, and I said to them, about 3 different people, I said, who's singing right now? And they said, I have no idea. And then I put on a song like Billie Jean or History or something like that. They knew right away it was Michael Jackson.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
yeah,
you know,
I mean, there's no question. I mean, look, I mean, there's no question. The vocals sound strained on those tracks. You know, I mean, I guess to some people they don't. To me, they do. You know, but again, how to explain that? I can't say exactly what happened because I wasn't there. I haven't talked to anybody who was there. So, you know, my focus has been on the work that, you know, that Michael did, that Michael, you know, recorded and left us, you know, the groundbreaking albums. And, you know, in terms of the posthumous material, you know, I will say there were some really good songs on that album. Like Much Too Soon is just an absolutely beautiful song.
Hollywood
especially, and Hollywood Tonight, which I talked to Brad Buxer about. He worked on that song with Michael. You know, so there was some, and, you know, Behind the Mask, which is a demo from the Thriller sessions. You know, it's a cool song, so I wish they would release the original. So, you know, but and also I think that the demos that came out on the on Bad 25 were great. You know, I thought they were really, you know, cool new tracks, and kind of added a new perspective on, you know, what Michael was working on during the Bad sessions. There's a lot of material from that time.
Yeah, that's a very good point. But one thing on the Michael album, when I first heard it, I said I thought the theory would be that these were unreleased. This is how when I first heard it, and all the rumors were going around. I thought that they were broken up and they were just put together. I didn't think that Sony would be legally would do something like that unless they fully knew. Now, since then, I had a little change of heart, but like you said, we can only speculate right now until we have real evidence, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that's the responsible way to approach it. Like I said, people have their opinions. You know, we all can listen with our ears and hear what we hear, right? But at the same time, you know, to really kind of figure out what's going on, you know, you need to talk to people. You need sources. You need witnesses. You know, people that were there, and you know, and I guess on the back end of it, you know, Teddy Riley worked on those tracks he didn't work on the original tracks, but he worked on them eventually. So, he would know more than I do.
Yeah, and I believe he was on Oprah, questioned about it, and I believe he gave the thumbs up for that one. I just remember that. It was vaguely. But I know he was on Oprah, questioned about it.
Yeah,
So,
I think he, I don't know what exactly his position is now, but yeah, it'd be interesting to hear if he has anything new to say.
oh, absolutely, no question. All right, let's take a phone call. Let's go out to California. Mark is holding. Mark, your turn.
Good evening, mate. How are you? Hello, mate. Hello.
Hey, how are you?
How are you? Got a
Good.
question for you.
Sure.
I've heard Tom Mesereau and Aphrodite Jones not too long ago on this King Jordan show. I got their opinion, and they sounded very knowledgeable. What's the opinion on this Pearl woman who says that Michael Jackson is still alive? You sound to be pretty knowledgeable about things like that. Where do you stand on that?
Well, what I would say is, Michael lives through his work, and that's the bottom line for me is, Michael has this great quote from one of his last interviews with Ebony Magazine where he says, "To escape death, I attempt to bind my soul to my work." And for me, that's the truth.
What are you saying? Are you agreeing with this Pearl woman, or do you agree with Tom Mesereau and Aphrodite Jones, who are saying that he has passed on into the other world? She says that this Pearl woman says that he is still around.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is that he lives through his work, right? It's not like a literal thing. It's like he like when we listen to his music, when we listen to or we watch his films and his dances, that's Michael's essence, I think, lives on through that.
That's not answering my question, though. I mean, James Brown and
He's
Elvis. We can all live with their music.
I'm saying, I'm not gonna walk down the streets of New York City like have an Elvis sighting, right? Like a Michael sighting. I'm saying, what I'm saying, which is that
has he passed on into the other world? I'm saying.
Well, I mean that's up to people's kind of spiritual, take on the world. I'm not gonna get into that.
So you're saying he's still alive to you?
I don't think he's going to get it to anything else.
Yeah, I don't know what else to tell you. Like I said, people have their spiritual worldviews, so if, for people, that's up to them to decide. For me personally, I said what I had to say.
All right, with this Pearl woman again, is she right in her?
Yeah, I just will say clearly, I don't agree. From what I know about her, I don't.
If you don't agree with what she says, that's what I'm trying to figure out here.
Yeah, of course I don't agree with that. Yeah.
That's what I was asking. Then you just answered my question. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Is there anything else, Mark?
There's plenty more, but we could always bat things around here. Michael Jackson definitely was a great person. I mean, I grew up with the man, and I still love his music to this day.
Yeah.
And that's what it's about. That's what it's about.
Trying to figure out certain things here with people saying that he's still alive, and people have major hopes on things like that,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think for me, I think sometimes it's just a matter of parsing language, right, in terms of taking things literally versus, interpreting things again, if somebody can interpret, where Michael Jackson is, it really depends on your worldview, So everything I understand about is it Pearl? Yeah. I mean, I don't know what that's all about, but yeah.
I mean, we're all going to be alive, through this, through these YouTubes and everything else. I mean, it looks like we never die as far as that goes, and tapes and what have you. But I just think this Pearl woman is on a different planet altogether.
Well, you're probably right.
Okay, mate. Thank you. Have a nice night evening.
Yeah, you too.
But as far as the YouTubes, I agree with the caller from that standpoint. You could just sit back and just YouTube Michael Jackson, whatever, and boom, you got it. You couldn't do that 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I was trying to, explain is that, yeah, I mean, we had these things, Michael talked about this, that it's almost like you used to spend time, these moments, like when you sit and watch the Motown 25 performance, that's immortalized, like that will always be something that we can watch and enjoy and experience, and that's Michael, so it's like in a way Michael doesn't ever die.
Right. So, basically living through his music is one way. Documentaries is another way. And that's a great way to look at things. I wanted to talk some more about your books. But first of all, as Christmas is coming up, and if you're a Michael Jackson fan, what a way to get yourself a nice Michael Jackson gift. And right now, Joe has Man the Music, Earth Song, and featuring Michael Jackson. Now, if the fans that are listening tonight, how would they go about getting the book? Or the book?
So they should be able to get all of those books on Amazon or Barnes & Noble. Or you can just go to my website. I have links there at www.joevogel.net.
Okay, and the books, are they reasonably priced or very expensive?
I think they're reasonably priced. Most of them are discounted at Amazon. So the Man of the Music is a pretty big book too. It's got a lot of pictures in it, so I think it's a pretty good deal.
Oh, okay, great. Now, the three books, a Michael Jackson fan that is listening now, tell him or her why they should buy the book, what they would get out of it.
Out of which books?
Any of the three books, or if you have one in particular.
It's what we talked about before, which is to say that, if people are interested in his artistic process, his creative process, if they're interested in kind of thinking about the meanings of his works, if they're interested in interpreting what Michael's getting at, that's the kind of stuff that I try to do in these books, and not just to offer my own reading of Michael's work, but to kind of bring in a lot of different people that worked with him and other music critics and kind of how people have responded to Michael's work. So, again, if for those people who just love Michael's creativity, that's what my books are all about.
Absolutely. Let's go over to 703. Please state your name, where you're calling from. It's your turn. 703.
Hi, this is Elizabeth. I'm calling from Washington, D.C.
Hello there.
Hi, Joe. It's
How are
so
you?
nice to talk. I'm great. It's so nice to get a chance to talk to you. I bought Man in the Music the minute it came out, and I just wanted to say that your book, it's as if the literature on Michael for so many years has been nothing but, empty calories and sugar. And your book is like meat and potatoes.
Thank you. That's very nice of you.
Definitely something that I'm so much interested in seeing more of. And I think that, the genius of Michael's work is the reason why he's still such a compelling person and figure. And so I really appreciated all the work that you do in the book, talking about the individual songs and his process in writing them, and how they grew and developed over time. It's just really, this is what I wanted to know.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to know, too.
And so my hope is that other people are going to be picking up on what you're doing. And so my question to you has to do with whether or not are you seeing signs that kind of more academic interest is taking hold. I went to a seminar that Brad Sundberg did in Orlando. His In the Studio with MJ seminar.
Yeah, I went to that in Toronto.
Did you go to his Toronto session?
Yeah, I went to the whole thing. It was great.
It was like a great bookend to me. It was a fabulous experience to actually be there in that multimedia environment. And
Absolutely.
Having read your book before I went there, I just kept saying to myself, Brad needs to have stacks of Joe's books on the table for this. And you should talk to him about that. But really, I felt like I was more well prepared, like to have a better understanding, because I had that background from reading your book. And so,
oh, that's great.
So the big question is, do you feel like, is there any plans, events, seminars, conferences, anything like that coming up that people have talked about or that you might have heard, more things along these lines?
Well, I know Brad's doing more stuff. I talked to him a little bit up in Toronto, which, by the way, for those who haven't had a chance to go to Brad Sundberg's seminars, they're absolutely amazing. And, he tells great stories. He shows, video clips and lets you listen to demos. Again, kind of a window into Michael's creative process. So I know Brad was talking about maybe having me and Matt Forger come down to Florida and doing a seminar down there again. Maybe like focused on Captain EO and some other things. So that might be upcoming. We'll have to see about solidifying a date for that. Other than that, yeah, there's definitely been an explosion of interest in academia with Michael. There was a class at Duke University taught by Mark Anthony Neal last spring, I believe. And I think I mentioned earlier that Susan Fast, who's an academic in Canada, she's just completed a really amazing book on Dangerous, the Dangerous album. And that comes out, I believe, in this coming summer.
Wonderful.
So, yeah, I think we're just going to see more and more. I really think, unfortunately, people tend to not appreciate genius until it's gone.
Right.
And so when Michael passed, there was this sudden resurgence of interest. And I guess that's the silver lining of losing him. But, we're definitely seeing a whole bunch of interest from a a variety of fields too, because Michael was such a multidimensional artist. People are approaching him in different ways. I had somebody reach out to me about writing a book that just focuses on dance, Michael Jackson and dance and his contributions to dance. And I think, we're just going to start to see gradually more and more stuff that just explores the whole breadth of his artistry.
That's really great to hear because...
Have you seen my website, too? I have like an MJ Studies page. I have a bunch of links to things that, to articles, seminars, things like that. So you can check that out on my website, too, if you have.
Oh, right. Yes. I haven't been there in a while. I'll go back and see what you have that's new. And I think it would be wonderful if you and Matt do a seminar with Brad. I'll definitely be signing up for that because the three of you in one room.
Yeah.
Yeah. If any listeners have not heard of Brad Sundberg, he has a Facebook page, and this is not a paid endorsement or anything, but it's in the studio with MJ Seminars, and you left there feeling like you'd been in the studio with Michael.
Absolutely.
So to have you guys there as well, I can just imagine, but he'll have to extend it to like a 2-day thing because... No, it wouldn't just be enough to have an afternoon, I think.
It would be fun. Both Brad and Matt, I interviewed Matt quite a bit for all of my projects, and they're both great storytellers, and they have great memories. So they're fun people to talk to. They have so much, stuff to say about Michael, and they both really loved Michael, too. They loved working with him, so...
Yes, and that is a great touch to the experience. Telling little funny stories on Michael and things is really great. But I just wanted to say that I appreciate so much the work that you've done. I've read everything you've written so far, and I'm waiting for more. Okay. Well, thank you so
Good
much.
to talk to you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you for the call. Okay. Very good caller indeed. Joe, let me take you back to 1993. Obviously, you're still a diehard Michael Jackson fan, right?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Michael's work. Absolutely.
So we have the Super Bowl, and we have the Oprah interview. He's on top of the world. And then these disgusting charges are thrown out to the media. And it was, putting aside the actual charges, you would have thought, 9/11 happened times 10, the way the media attacked Michael Jackson for an accusation. Give me your thoughts.
Well, I mean, it's obviously just totally devastated Michael. It was devastating in many ways to his career. It changed, in certain ways, the trajectory of his life and his career. I think that, if you can say anything good came of it, it's, again, that Michael is able to respond to tragic circumstances and to pain and suffering with incredible art. To me, the History album is arguably his best album, and much of that album is responding to, the personal anguish. If you think about songs like Stranger in Moscow, which I think is one of his best tracks. They don't care about a scream. These are really powerful songs, and of course they're responding to these personal circumstances, but Michael was also able to kind of broaden the themes so that they weren't just about him. He was looking at larger kinds of social issues, figuring out how, I mean, he was connecting the dots, basically, where he was looking at what was happening to him and connecting those to broader issues. So, I mean, I think there are other people that can speak with more, I've researched, obviously, the allegations and, the trials and everything. There's probably people that, like Tom Mesereau, obviously, that could speak more to that. But for me, I could just say that, I never, having looked into them thoroughly, I absolutely never believed those allegations, those charges, and I think it was a great injustice the way that Michael was treated by the media, by overzealous prosecutors like Tom Sneddon. I think there was a lot of people, people like Martin Bashir, disingenuous journalists, if you can call them journalists. So there's so many different... Diane Diamond, the list goes on and on, about people who exploited the situation, and who... I think what it comes down to is just that people no longer viewed Michael Jackson as a human being, and again, that was really, if there's one thing I could say, it's like during the 2005 trial, I remember watching, Michael kind of walking slowly in and out of the courtroom, and that was kind of the spark that inspired me to write Man in the Music, was just, I felt really bad that here, again, one of the great artists and humanitarians of our time was having to get up every morning and do this, go to court and listen to this kind of stuff, and watch his reputation just be completely trashed. It was really sad to watch. And I think, in many ways that was kind of the impetus to say, what, we really need to get back to looking at the facts, for one, but also focusing on what Michael Jackson, who he is and what he actually brought to the world, which is great art, great music.
Yeah, and also on a previous show where I had Miss Aphrodite Jones, a good person and a good friend, a lot of controversy came when she stated that she has a question mark about the 1993 allegations, and that's just her opinion. And I do want to state for the record, in my opinion, I have no question whatsoever. I have looked into it thoroughly. I've had Mesereau here. I talked about points why he's not a molester, and that was her opinion. And this is my opinion, and we're all entitled to it at the end of the day. But I just wanted to get that out. We do have another question, but I do want to say, people like Michael come back after, I guess, pressure like that, as you pointed out with the 95 History album, and those songs like Scream, They Don't Care About Us, and Earth Song and others, they just had a different feel to it, like an angry Michael Jackson, especially They Don't Care About Us. You agree?
Yeah, I mean, I think he brought an energy to those tracks, and kind of an indignation. And, I mean, he was, again, you think about a song like They Don't Care About Us, and what he's really doing in that song is he's identifying himself with other people who have been oppressed in some way. And he's, I think it's important to recognize, that Michael, even in this really dark moment in his own personal life, it's not just about Michael Jackson. It's about other people, and I think that's consistent, throughout Michael's career, whether it's, his song Gone Too Soon, which he wrote for Ryan White, whether it's Earth Song, whether it's We Are the World. I mean, Michael was looking outward. Michael was, cared about other people, and he put that into his work, so it's not they don't care about me, it's they don't care about us.
Exactly. Okay, let's go over to 505. I believe this is New Mexico. Please state your name and where you're calling from. 505.
Yes, this is Nina from Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Oh, hi, Nina. Hi.
Oh, hi. Hi, how are you?
You're on the phone with Joe Vogel.
Yeah.
And King Jordan.
Yes, a couple of things that I was interested in musing and pondering over, which have to do with what you were saying earlier about Michael's continual hounding and harassment by the media,
right,
and the press. I've had a couple of thoughts about this, and I wonder if it might have been about the sorts of expectations that were placed upon him as an African-American artist especially.
Yeah.
That a great deal of pressure, I think, was probably brought to bear on him for being a kind of a savior, and especially in an American context. That he was expected to somehow heal certain racial wounds that, no, obviously nobody could be expected to pull that sort of weight.
Yeah. But no, that's interesting,
Yeah, but he was expected to, and in fact, I wonder, to the extent to which he himself claims a sort of the role of being able to do this in a way. And I'm very curious about the ways that I wouldn't say he was complicit in this, but that kind of naivete or seeming naivete that he seemed to use or deploy in some way, that he took on too much of this burden, and it wasn't something that I believe more contemporary stars would necessarily take on themselves, or would. So I'm
it certainly makes you, like a target in certain ways, right? To
what?
Kind of. I would say it certainly makes you. I'm thinking about what you're saying, and I kind of explored this a little bit in the Earth Song piece, where Michael's being charged with, like, these kinds of messianic tendencies, or, like, this iconography that he's using, where he is bringing like, this healing power energy. Like, he's tapping into that, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So,
mm-hmm.
And so is your kind of, what you're thinking is, like, that in doing so, what?
It's kind of, I have a lot of directions in which I've been, taking these ideas, but these thoughts, these observations, but it does have to do with the Messianic impulse that he has, and I think that this is really something that is really kind of goes against the grain of what a lot of critics want to hear from an artist.
Yeah.
I think, too, that but at the same time, there is a strong desire to believe that such things, such magic is possible. Mm-hmm. That somehow an individual, a charismatic individual, a personage, a public figure is capable of, that he was what did I say before, so to speak, the great black hope who was capable of bringing people together in a way.
Like the pre-Obama.
So uh-huh.
Because some of those same expectations were like imposed on Barack Obama. That he was somehow that we were going to enter like this post-racial society, and that all of our racial wounds would be healed, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Which again, Obama is a very charismatic individual. So it's fascinating. One of the things I'm thinking is, though, art has some unique capacity to kind of do that, at least at an individual level, don't you think?
Yeah. It does. But I'm also thinking of this interview that he gave with Sylvia Chase. I don't know if you know this one, in 1980, where he says, when she asks him, I think it was a 2020 episode, she asked him what he, how do you feel when people are yelling on the stage, Michael, and he says, when people are holding hands together, all races, and not even a politician, he says, it's wonderful, not even a politician can do that.
Yeah.
So, so I don't know, I think it's interesting that he, but obviously there's such a deep desire for people actually to get out of doing their own work, I think, and to rely upon a public figure, a charismatic figure, a savior, so to speak, so as not to, so that the work can be done for them.
Yeah.
Of
it's
course
an interesting paradox, isn't it?
What? Yeah. Of course, they're going to be disappointed. They're going to be disappointed, and when that happens, they will probably lash out in some way. But that was one. Yeah. I mean, I think that was one thought. Another one concerns fame, but maybe I better just not get into that right now. And what was that? I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. That was about the way that he displays some of the paradoxes of the hyper-famous.
Yeah.
And that he lays bare the real cost. And I think this also came about through the recent trial of AEG. For which Katherine Jackson and the children brought against AEG, which unfortunately didn't bring a lot of the corruption to light as I might have hoped on the part of those companies, not just toward Michael but other artists possibly, and the whole system. But it's as though he was laying bare in some way that was unbearable for people to hear, the suffering and the real cost, especially as a child star, the real cost to the performing artist.
Right.
And the real
fame is supposed to be like seductive, right? We're supposed to want that, and I think Michael, in his work, so consistently exposed its like darker underbelly. I mean, he or through his own experience, just kind of demonstrated what kind of some of the repercussions are.
Yeah.
That it forces people to kind of scrutinize whether that's something anyone would want.
Yes. Yeah, it forces people to scrutinize whether that's something anyone would want, and that which is, of course, one of the founding myths of American culture, I think. And maybe more, but certainly American culture, about the rags to riches story, the obscure person who achieves great fame, but the real costs of what this industry is capable of imposing upon its subjects. Is something that is not often discussed and is pretty much hidden from view. Yeah. And he was trained to hide that very early, I guess, initially with his work at Motown. Very carefully taught to not make waves in a certain way.
They were in essence like always performing, right? Even in interviews. You're never supposed to kind of, reveal the scaffolding.
That's right.
So, again, I mean, I go back to the History album. It's like almost Michael taking every kind of different apparatus of power and, providing some kind of critique of it, you can go song by song, and it's really kind of amazing how dynamically he was thinking about the way power works in America. And different types of from racism to kind of media corruption to capitalism. Go down the line.
And nobody wanted to hear it, of course.
Yeah, it didn't have the same appeal for some reason, especially in the United States. You know, again, I mean, history was a lot more popular outside the U.S.
Yeah. That's not surprising. It's not surprising. Yeah. Well, it's interesting too that probably more than. And so I think that his appearance was coded. I'm not sure what he intended by this, but people probably thought. They thought a lot of things about his changing appearance. Of course, and many things were advanced, preposterous, and some not so preposterous things, and of course, 100 ideas have been advanced about why this happened. And we know some of the facts, not all, perhaps, and we don't know necessarily all the motivations, but it seemed to me that this could be seen also as a token of great suffering. For a lot of his spectators, a lot of people would think that he enacted a kind of masochistic thing, and not just in wanting to become white, as some opined, but just more generalized, even a self-loathing that made people very uncomfortable. I have no idea. Now, I'm not supporting that view.
Yeah.
I really don't know, and I have to say I don't know. You know, just I would rather not try to venture to guess.
Well, it's enormously complex, but I mean, I have thought, like, you know, in terms of the social response to Michael's physical appearance, it's interesting because, you know, people would make that argument that Michael wanted to be white, right? Or that he wanted to assimilate in some way or have, like, greater appeal to like a white audience. But it is interesting that the whiter he became, the more white America hated him. You know, in terms of the social. So it clearly wasn't like, you know, some kind of effort, at least it doesn't seem, you know, on his part to, you know, and then you have Michael's own words consistently throughout his career, which is, you know, saying that he's proud of his race. I mean, he wasn't, you know, he was pretty unequivocal. I mean, he made that pretty clear, and not only through his words, but through his, you know, his actions. So, but, you know, like you said, it's, you know, in terms of what's going on internally, you know, in terms of his past and you know, I mean, it's complicated.
Yes, it is.
Very complicated.
Yeah. I think it's just really an interesting barometer of the zeitgeist.
Yeah. Yeah.
And an occasion whereby people, one way or another, around all of these issues about race, gender, sexuality, and etc., have occasion to examine themselves. And his death brought, his life and his death brought about an occasion for people to do some self-examination about all of these issues. And people resist that, of course.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, one of the best, you know this, but one of the best pieces on this is James Baldwin's Freaks and the American Ideal of Manhood, where, you know, he I think was probably one of the first people to understand this kind of, this web of things that were causing, you know, race, gender, sexuality, power, that were causing people to think or want to create this kind of character of Michael as a freak, you know, and not think about, you know, some of the some of the ambiguities of his identity, you know, to try to in some way just move past that. I think Baldwin's quote is, "Freaks are called freaks because they cause to echo within us our greatest fears and desires," something to that effect.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. And how true has that turned out to be?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you.
Yeah, it's good to talk to you. Let's talk more.
Yeah, let's.
Okay. Thanks for the call. Absolutely. Joe, We have another question that came in. Let's see. It is from Julia Berkowitz, Facebook. Always great to hear from Joe Vogel. I really like Man in the Music. I'd like to ask him if he plans to write a book or an e-book, at least about the Jacksons material. I always found there's so little information about these albums, even though Michael had some real strong moments there as well. Triumph is up there with Michael Jackson's solo recordings, and it's a very Michael-like album, too. Destiny is a great album as well. Okay.
Yeah, so the question is about whether I'm ever going to write about the Jacksons material?
Yes.
So, I don't know if I have a definitive answer to that. I will say when I wrote Man in the Music, I actually had quite a bit of material on the Destiny album and the Triumph album that I had to cut. I had to cut about 100 pages out of that book because my editors felt it was a little bit too long. So I still have all that material, and at some point I'll figure out what to do with it. But some of that material was about the those two albums, which I think are really incredible albums, Destiny and Triumph, and are kind of right in that period, Off the Wall and Thriller. Some really great material. So I can't, again, I don't know definitively I can say if they'll ever do a book specifically on the Jacksons material, but I agree that there's not a whole lot written about it, and we could definitely use some more insight into those albums.
Absolutely, no question. Okay, I want to play this track, courtesy of Bad 25, one of the unreleased songs. And then I have a few more questions for you, and then we'll wrap this up, if that's okay with you. Good? Okay, let's take a look. Don't Be Messing, courtesy of Bed 25, the collector's edition, of course. Joe, do you know the story behind that song? Don't Be Messing?
Yeah, I actually did a piece on that when it first came out, I think for the Huffington Post, so people can check that out. But I talked to Matt Forger about that track, and what he remembered about it was just that it really kind of conveys Michael's just joy in making music, and there's kind of a looseness to the track. There's like Michael kind of improvising, like mimicking instruments, and it's just kind of a rough version. There were other versions, like during the Dangerous sessions that he worked on, but that one that we just heard is the one from the Bad session. I think it was '86. So, yeah, it's a cool song.
Yeah. Do you know why he didn't include that on the original? And do you know what song took its place, if so?
Do I know whether what?
Do you know, like, if Another Part of Me was that there instead of that? Like, is
no,
that
I
how
don't think it was ever, I don't think it ever really kind of crept into the lineup in terms of songs that were going to make the album. Michael liked the song, but I don't think it was like a serious competitor for the Bad album. Maybe in the early stages when Michael was thinking of, a double or a triple album, but when, once he got with Quincy Jones, they were paring things down, and there's so many good tracks that, that I don't think that was in the running.
Oh, okay. But like you said, definitely a great song.
Right.
I I wanted to ask you about This Was It. Now, I'm sure you saw that, right?
Yeah.
Of course, to me, this was a bittersweet situation. Travis Payne says, as they're building up to it, you're going to have Michael for the day. And that's what it did feel like. It was October 28th, about, 3-4 months from his passing. And when I saw that for the very first time, and just, that was a simple rehearsal.
Right.
What an amazing, words can't describe it. It was just so amazing. Your thoughts on This Is It movie?
Well, I think that it really opened a lot of people's eyes, because we so rarely did we get to see behind the curtain with Michael. And, there's a professor at NYU at the Clive Davis Institute named Jason King. He writes a really, really great piece on This Is It, so I encourage people to look for that. But, when I saw it, it was a confirmation really of what I had learned through all of my research and, what I was talking about earlier with Michael's short films. He was involved in every single aspect of his creative process. And you saw that in This Is It. He was, even at that, late stage in his career, he was just totally involved in making decisions and in determining how he wanted to present his work. And you just really see, just the amazing talent. Again, he was 50 years old and still able to dance and sing with just incredible agility and power. And I think, for a lot of people, I know I talked to a lot of people about that aren't even Michael Jackson fans, that were just kind of blown away when they saw it.
The one thing it gave also, and tell me if you agree, you remember in 2005 when he, was coming to his court, he looked like he was dying, medicated, whatever the point is. We don't know if he was medicated, but we know that he looked like he didn't feel well. At points, it looked like he might die. Now, This Is It was saved. They managed to save enough to make a movie. Now, what I liked is the fact that they got to see the artist, in his last go-around, if you will, gearing up for his big tour. They got to see the stuff that you like to cover instead of the trials, the plastic surgeries, this, this. They got to see the artist of Michael Jackson. So it was a beautiful send-off from that standpoint. Give me your thoughts.
Well, I agree because, we've had, even after Michael died, we've had trials and, you get all of these, details about Michael's personal life and things that he was struggling with, and things that he was having to deal with. And, these all these things that he was kind of fighting, but what This Is It does, and again, it's not the whole picture, right? It's we're getting certain moments, but those moments are meaningful. It's meaningful to see Michael in his element. It's meaningful to see Michael, be able to do what he was doing in those clips that we have. And it's not to say that all of the rehearsals went like that, but it is to say, here's a pretty phenomenal artist who was trying, under the circumstances, to do something magic, to make a really kind of great comeback. So I think in that regard, I think when you see it, there is certainly a tragic element to it, but then there's also just a kind of inspiring element to see some of the things that he's doing.
And like I said, you a lot of people before the movie and when he died, they went right to the accusations and stuff like that, and we didn't know if there was going to be a film. And obviously, since he passed, I think people started to appreciate this kind, gentle soul. And to see him in his element, in his office, if you will, like Michael Jordan, his office, the great boxer Muhammad Ali has his office, and Michael Jackson has his office. And we got to see him in his office performing instead of on the Inquirer, 6 Months to Live and stuff like that, and this nonsense that goes on. I thought, just from that standpoint alone, it's a tragedy that he had to die. No doubt, 50 years old, nobody should die. But if he had to die, I thought, the only thing AEG did good was actually putting that film together. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it was. I think it was an important film for Michael's legacy. I think it helped kind of move the needle in a direction where, people again started to think of Michael in this way. Where they're thinking about, what Michael was able to do as an artist and how he was interacting with his collaborators. I mean, you see kind of his sense of humor, his generosity. People enjoy working with him. You just got a sense of his personality, I think, in some of those clips.
No, absolutely, no question. And Michael definitely will live on, like Elvis, 10 times over. A lot of people like the Beatles. Not me personally, but Michael and his albums and music will live on forever. Did you get a chance to hear the leaked song? Now it's in full. The song is called "A Place with No Name."
Yeah.
It's
a great song. Yeah,
great song.
It is. I think right after Michael passed, like a part of that song came out, and then it just, people hadn't heard the full version of it, and so, Michael has so many great songs that, still, they've released some, but there's still a lot more that people will hear in the years to come, that just shows really, how much great material Michael had, even beyond his studio albums. For every album he recorded so many songs, and that one I think was in '98. When he was working with Dr.
That was '98.
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, just it's a very cool song.
Yeah, like his music could be 98, 92, 88. It doesn't, it could go in any era. That's what I like about his music. You agree?
I mean, I find myself kind of, maybe not even listening to his studio albums as much as I like to listen to some of these more rare tracks, that are just, that were considered for the albums but didn't make it on for whatever reason. And like the other day I was listening to Someone Put Your Hand Out. Just such a beautiful song, and he's got so many great songs that it's such a deep, rich catalog of different styles. Music that you can move to, music that you can put you in like a more reflective state of mind, and he just kind of captures the full spectrum of emotion and feeling.
I also find that with one of his older songs, Ben. Your thoughts on that song?
On which song?
Ben.
Oh, Ben, yeah. Yeah, I mean, that was one of his, I think, first songs to, what I was talking about before, where Michael kind of identified with the outsider, kind of identified with the marginalized, and You know, that I always think of that song as, you know, Michael really kind of expressing pretty profound, deep emotions, you know, especially for that age, and kind of singing a song that I think a lot of people could relate to in their own ways, you know, and takes, you know, that story or those lyrics, you know, they don't see you as I do, I wish they would try to, you know, these are really, the way he delivers those lines, very powerful.
And another one I like is You Are My Life. More of the yeah. What do you think of that song?
Yeah, that's, you know, when I think of that song, I think of his kids, you know, and how much he loved his children. And, you know, since I was during the Invincible era, and he has young children, and the climax of that song is, I think, really kind of communicates Michael's love for his children.
You know, I think Invincible overall is very underrated. There's a lot of great songs on that song, on that track, like Butterflies, Heaven Can Wait, Break of Dawn.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on the Invincible album?
Well, you know, some people disagree with me about this, but for me it doesn't totally work as an album, but there's a lot of great songs on it, you know. There's kind of individual tracks. For some reason, I think, you know, there were a lot of people that worked on that album, and Michael worked on it over a long period of time.
Right.
And he recorded a ton of songs for it, a lot of really good songs that didn't end up making it on the album. So it feels like, to me, I mean, again, I know that there'll be people that, that vehemently disagree with me on this. I think for me, it doesn't totally coalesce as an album, but I love a lot of individual songs on it.
Oh, okay. So when you say it doesn't belong on an album, what do you mean exactly? Like it should have been singles or just
no,
a few
just
good
you know, sometimes albums feel like a whole thing. You know, like you listen to them from beginning to end, and like there's kind of a coherence to the whole, like the songs as they relate to each other. And sometimes albums are just like you like to just listen to a track here or a track there. You can mix them around, or you can do different things with it and enjoy it in that way. And I think, for me, Invincible kind of falls into the latter category, where what I tend to do with that album is I, you know, take all those songs that are on it, and then, you know, the 10 or 15 or 20 that didn't make it onto the album but were recorded around that time, and I just mix them all up and just play Michael's kind of 2000 era music, you know. Whereas like with an album like Dangerous or History, I feel like, you know, there's kind of you can listen to it from beginning to end, and it kind of tells a story.
No question about it. I feel like I gotta ask you this. Give me your thoughts on Wade Robson.
On what?
On Wade Robson.
Oh, the guy that just recently made allegations.
Right, like I think it was over the summertime.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what to say about that, except for that, you know, he took to the stand, you know, he testified, he defended Michael, he continued to hang out with Michael until the end of Michael's life, and never seemed to have any, you know, problems with his experiences. Had all good things to say, and then he you know, made a claim, and wants, I think he's, you know, wants money. Yeah. So that's, you know, I mean, in other words, like, he didn't just, like, say, this is something that happened to me. He said, this is something that happened to me, and I'm saying it because I want to file charges against Michael Jackson's estate, which is making a lot of money right now.
Yeah, and he's, it's also bad, besides the allegation, he has children that have to hear this now with social media. The man is in his grave for almost 5 years, and it's wrong on so many counts. The year that Mesereau pointed out, the trial, that the minute that the trial goes on, that's when the claim is made. The AEG trial starts. And then you have a series of videos up from 2 years ago, as recently, when he was working on a book with Jermaine Jackson. He also had dated LaToya Jackson's, I think, sister. Or so. He definitely dated people in the Jackson family. No, I'm not.
Well, I think he was also going to work on the. He wanted to work on the Cirque du Soleil thing. That Jamie King ended up working on. So yeah, I mean, so we have this, narrative of him consistently defending Michael, saying that Michael was his biggest inspiration. He came out with a long statement after Michael passed, talking about how wonderful Michael was. And really? Now he's changed his tune, and it's hard to think of any other reason why he would do that other than, being a bit opportunistic and
right. I mean, you ask for money and then you go on national television. You could have not asked for money. At least it would have looked more credible from your standpoint, or his standpoint. Not that I would have believed him in the first place, but to ask for money can only lead to one conclusion for me, and that coupled with a lot of other things, in my opinion, he holds no credibility. I don't know why a court is giving him a chance to say his piece, but hopefully if it goes all the way to a jury trial, which Mesereau said it can, but didn't think it won't, I hope that they don't settle, and I hope that, as I see it, he'll be found not guilty in death, Michael Jackson.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I have no idea how this would even go to court. It just blows my mind, really. And, the worrisome thing would be, obviously if he did, if he was able to extort money out of this situation, then obviously it would open the doors for anyone and everyone, to make similar types of claims,
Exactly.
Years and years after the fact, regardless of what they've said, regardless of what they've testified on the stand, they suddenly have recovered memories and, and want money. So.
Exactly. It's crazy. And, for anything else, a judge should have to stop this. So, anybody could make up a claim. Right now, it'd be very hard to, disprove it or prove it, for that matter. It's just a claim,
Yeah, I mean, and that's the unfair part about it is, that he can say his piece and Michael's not here to defend himself, So, they were the only ones that were there, and so, he can now, contradict everything that he said before, but Michael can't in any way offer like a counter narrative. So,
Yeah, I mean,
I will say I think most people can see through this. I mean, I don't think there are a lot of people that give a lot of credibility. I mean, it was kind of under the radar when it happened. I mean, he made that one media appearance and then it just kind of disappeared.
Yeah. And they showed most polls 90-10, not believer in Wade Robson. So I think that's how it'll wind up. And he'll have egg on his face when it's all said and done. Your opinion on Dr. Murray coming out and saying all this salacious junk on TV?
Well, it's kind of the story of Michael's life, right? It's just this endless revolving door of people taking advantage of him. I mean, there's no other way to put it. I mean, with Dr. Murray, I should say Dr. Murray, I should say Conrad Murray.
Yeah.
His recklessness, his negligence, his refusal to act ethically led to Michael's death, directly to Michael's death, and a jury actually found that to be the case, and so here he is, out trying to make a buck on Michael, who he already is responsible for ending his life. It's hard to really comprehend that level of callousness and cruelty.
I believe you posted something by Dr. Liam, I can't pronounce his name. One of the doctors said something really important that you posted from YouTube, and he said, his friend's wife, said that he was cheating or something, blah, 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 and one thing led to another, and he was proven not to, and I don't know what the doctor's name was, but Dr. something with a W, I believe.
That I posted?
Yes, you posted.
Oh, was it the video that I posted of Wayne Dyer?
That's it, yes.
Yeah.
I thought he said some beautiful things, and he hit it right on the head.
Yeah. Yeah, I do too. I mean, I guess, the encouraging thing, I guess, for me, is that, there were a lot of people who betrayed Michael or who, used him, exploited him in some way. But there were also people who were genuinely decent people. A lot of people that Michael worked with creatively that I've had a chance to talk to. Or people like, Wayne Dyer, who you just mentioned, or, there were people that were in Michael's life that actually were very good people, and I think, and who really appreciated, I've been just amazed at how many people I've talked to who have said, that were close to Michael in some way, that have said that he is just like one of the most decent, kindest people they ever knew. That's not really something that you hear a lot about, celebrities or recording artists. There's but there's an unusual amount of that comes from people that work with Michael, people that just come away just like really just impressed with him, not just as an artist but as a person. So in spite of the Conrad Murrays, who will go down as just footnotes in history, there were a lot of people that I think really were good for Michael, and Michael obviously had a positive impact on them.
Oh, no question. You hit it right on the head. And just want to also remind everybody, of course, Christmas only a month away. We got a lot of Michael Jackson fans that have an interest in Michael Jackson, the creative artist. I would definitely suggest taking a look and buying your books. And you have your Earth Song, featuring Jackson, and like you said, you could get it at Amazon.
Yeah, absolutely. Amazon,
Barnes & Noble. Sure, does Barnes & Noble have it? So that definitely would be a Christmas gift. But I also wanted to, in closing, ask you about Spike Lee. I've seen him at the Madison Square Garden when the Knicks are playing. What about Spike Lee? About a little bit.
About what it was like to work with Spike, or what, like, what about Spike?
So what was to work with Spike?
Spike's great, and I will say, again, Spike's another person that just really had the utmost respect and admiration for Michael, and I was just really impressed with the way he approached the Bad 25 documentary, and, he's a legend in his own right. I mean, he, has an incredible body of work as a filmmaker, but he's also very invested in, the legacy of Michael. And, he was doing those Brooklyn Loves MJ parties, and when I went down there to Brooklyn, I saw in one of the offices like all these paintings and pictures that he has of Michael. And so there's clearly a level of respect. Keep in mind Michael exploded in the early 80s with Thriller and Spike Lee, when She's Gotta Have It and Do the Right Thing came out in mid-80s and in the early or late 80s. They were both kind of breaking down the doors and opening up new territory as black artists and filmmakers, and so I feel honored to have had the chance to work with Spike Lee.
Oh, absolutely. He's one of the greats.
Absolutely.
Like all of his movies is awesome, and he's just good to have around, especially after he make games. But anyway, on behalf of the Michael Jackson fan community, I want to thank you a million for joining us here tonight on King Jordan Radio.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, and I will like to invite you back someday, and we'll do some more talking.
Great, that sounds good. Yeah, we'll definitely have to do it again sometime.
Absolutely, and of course, you're at Twitter at Joe Vogel, right?
Joe Vogel 1.
Joe Vogel 1. You got the books out now. Like I said, it's a great Christmas present. And thanks a million for joining us, Joe. We really appreciate it.
All right, thanks a lot, Jordan. Have a good night.
Have a good night. Take care. Okay, folks, I want to thank Joseph Vogel for coming on the show tonight. He was great. Really, really had a lot of good things to say about MJ. Also want to thank everybody who retweeted in the last 6 or 7 days. I want to thank blogtalkradio.com. I want to thank Luna Joe 67. As you know, you can watch a lot of great Michael Jackson stuff from Luna Joe's videos. If you like to check it out, go right ahead at youtube.com/user.LunaJoe67. Now, in those video packages, she has 3 different series. What did happen to Michael Jackson? An inside look of all the court cases. Also, she has what did happen on June 25th, the day Michael Jackson passed away, and what did happen after the trial. Check her out there. I also want to give a shout out for Justice from MJ. Let me give a shout out to MikeMJUpbeat.com. A shout out to all the many MJ fans